为助力中国同中亚国家合作和中亚国家自身发展，中方将向中亚国家提供总额260亿元人民币的融资支持和无偿援助。
In 2023, China pledged nearly $4 billion to parts of Central Asia for development, considered an expansion of Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. Proposed in 2013, the Infrastructure and Foreign Investment Plan has been on the ground for more than 10 years, with deals signed with over 150 countries. Part of the blueprint envisions a land-based belt that runs westward through Central Asia to Europe. For that to happen, the plan needs the buy-in of Central Asian countries, which form the corridor to this route. But is China stepping on the toes of the region's northernmost neighbor, Russia?
Yes, so the United States and China both are clearly, openly playing in Russia's backyard.
Central Asia is ditching Russia for China.
The relationship is not as equal as it used to be.
Seen as a way to counter its fading influence, Russia announced plans to build a nuclear power plant in Uzbekistan, in the heart of Central Asia.
Подписанный сегодня протокол о внесении изменений в профильное межправсоглашение от 2018 года открывает возможность для сооружения в Узбекистане АЭС малой мощности по...
As China expands its investment and cooperation with the region, is Central Asia a sore spot in China-Russia relations? Central Asia has been closely aligned with Russia due to a shared history. The 1991 dissolution of the Soviet Union granted Central Asian states independence on a political level, but these countries continue to rely heavily on Russia for trade, security, and political support.
The current political regimes in all 5 Central Asian countries have appeared during the Soviet Union, and the basis of the political system, of the economic infrastructure, of the ideologies even, were based in the 20th century.
The economic stability of Central Asian countries is partly dependent on remittances from their citizens who work in Russia.
If we take a look at the statistic, we will see that around 7 or 10 million people every year travel to Russia as labor migrants from Central Asian countries, mainly from Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. This is a very important source of income for the households in those 3 countries.
Russia imports natural resources from Central Asia and exports machinery, vehicles, and consumer goods. Russia and Central Asia exchanged $36 billion in goods in 2021, amounting to 22% of Central Asia's total foreign trade. Kazakhstan is one of Russia's most important partners.
Statistically, every year, around 80% of Kazakhstan's oil travels through the Russian territory to European markets. And for that, Kazakhstan is heavily dependent on its political relationship with Russia.
Some Central Asian leaders were educated in Russia, fostering strong relationships that later translated into pro-Russian policies and cooperation. These have provided an avenue for Russia's security and military presence in the area. In 2002, the Collective Security Treaty Organization was formed, consisting of most Central Asian countries. CSTO provides a framework for mutual defense, joint military exercises, and security cooperation, considered as a counter to NATO, another military alliance that is led by the West.
This is one of the backbones of Russia's presence in Central Asia. By having CSTO, Russia has legitimate ground to involve into the domestic issues of Central Asian countries when it might be needed.
The combination of these factors has ensured that Russia was a dominant force in the region. But things changed in 2022. When Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th, leveling cities and killing thousands of civilians. Around the same time, long-running disputes between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan over their shared border had escalated into a full-scale armed conflict. Scores of civilians were killed and more than 140,000 people were driven from their homes. But Moscow was too distracted with its own war to help.
CSTO did nothing to resolve those issues, only came up with some rhetoric and asked two parties to come to the negotiating table.
Central Asians' faith in Moscow's CSTO has since been challenged elsewhere.
They want to have more flexibility in their international affairs, and that is why they are alienating themselves from Russia where it's possible. So, in a way, the whole history of the last 3 decades of Central Asia's attempts to find itself in international relations was this balance between having a good relationship with Russia and also alienating from Russia during that process.
They have provided China with an opening to further grow a footprint that has been there since ancient times.
历史上，两个方面吧，这个交流和交往是非常的密切的，而且是可以说从历史上来讲，双边呢没有产生这种特别重大的这种分歧。古丝之路的繁荣实际上是有利于。不仅有利于这个中国，也有利于中亚地区的这个繁荣和发展。实际上，就是中亚地区的这种衰落和古丝绸之路的这个衰落是有密切的这个关系的。
The establishment of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in 2001 marked a new era of cooperation between China and Central Asia.
一个主要目标是应对包括恐怖主义在内的三股势力，这个是有基础的啊，也就是说他们的担忧。实际上后来就被9·11事件，这个发生被证明是正确的啊，也就是正确，也就是说，在整个中亚就是上海组织成员国周边地区是存在着恐怖主义、极端主义和分离主义的这样的一种威胁。
China's Belt and Road Initiative further strengthened relations.
除了土库曼斯坦有大概5%的这个降幅之外的话。就其他4个中亚国家跟我们这个贸易的合作都是大幅度的增长，是吧？
But Umarov said that despite thriving China-Central Asia relations, Russia remains a strong ally.
It might seem that the region is alienating itself from Russia on the surface, but in reality, this is not what's happening on May 9th in Moscow every year. There have been already 2 military parades on the background of the war in Ukraine, and to both of them, all 5 Central Asian countries went and had negotiations with the Russian President Vladimir Putin.
How about Sino-Russian relations? Both countries care about regional security, but diverge in their respective, often competitive interests.
比如说中国更多的注重发展，是吧？俄罗斯更注重这个安全。但是我觉得这个俄乌冲突以来，或者是当下这种巨大的这种国际局势变动下，也出现了一种趋同的这种趋势，是吧？这种趋同的趋势，我把它称之为就安全与发展怎么去统筹。
Instead, we have seen the Sino-Russian relationship grow closer as the West sets its sights on Central Asia. In December 2021, the EU unveiled what it called a true alternative to the Belt and Road Initiative, known as the Global Gateway. And in September 2023, the U.S. ambassador to Pakistan visited Gwadar Port, a major Belt and Road project.
Every time Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping meet for the last 3 years, they sign joint agreement where they specifically point out to Central Asia and say that Moscow and Beijing collectively work together on preventing color revolutions in Central Asia, which, if we translate it from the official diplomatic language to the normal one, will mean that Moscow and Beijing do not want to see active Western presence in Central Asia.
Central Asia has to maintain a balancing act to continue tapping economic opportunities from China while maintaining friendly terms with its former master.
Central Asian countries are landlocked. They don't have so much flexibility in international relations as maritime powers across the world. That is why China's presence is so important for Central Asian countries, and there definitely is no doubt that the region needs China as an alternative to Russia, as well as the region needs Russia as an alternative to China.